All right, we are going to continue with working with length and sector area, but the goal in this one is to be able to go backwards. The previous problems, I gave you the angle and the radius, and you had to figure out either the length or the sector area. Now we're going to maybe mix up those amounts. Maybe I'm going to give you the sector area, and you have to work backwards to find the radius or something like that. Let's go ahead and do number 1 together and number 2 together. So let's see, find the missing amounts. Let's see, well, the central angle, and I want to find PQ. PQ is always going to be my minor arc, not major arc. So I'm looking for that for PQ. So that means this angle right here is my central angle. Well, that's pretty easy. I know that the whole value, all of my angles are 360. So 360 minus 210 is 150. So my central angle is going to be 150. That's not too difficult. My radius, well, my radius isn't missing. It's 15 inches. Now I want to find the arc length. So this one is pretty easy. I just had to do a little bit of digging to find what the central angle was. Since I'm talking about length, I need to find the circumference. So circumference is 2 pi r, which is 2 pi times 15, which is 30 pi. Now I'm going to set up my proportion. PQ, I'm going to call it x because I like that better. My length over my entire circumference is going to be equal to my angle over the entire number of angles, so 360. So there's my proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. 360x equals, what is 150 times 30? I know I could figure that in my head, but I am very tired. 4,500 times pi. I'm going to divide. Okay, and I'm going to simplify. 450 divided by 36. I could divide by 9/9. 450 divided by 9 is going to be 50 pi. 36 divided by 9 is going to be 4. Could divide that again, 25 pi over 2. So my arc length is going to be 25 pi over 2 inches. And that's going to approximately be 50 pi divided by 4, 39.27 inches. So there is my arc length. So for number 1, the missing amount really wasn't all that hard to do. I just had to subtract to find my central angle. Let's go ahead and do number 2, which is going to be a tidge more involved. Find the missing amount. Let's take a look. I know my sector length, or my length of my arc. And let's see. Oh, this says PQ and this is A. We're just going to change this to PQ. There we go. I know that this is talking about length because I take a look at my units feet. Feet is talking about length. If this was a feet squared, I know it would be talking about area. So this length right here, the length of arc PQ, is 15.87. Oh, okay. 15.87 feet. That part I know. My radius, I know, is 7 feet. I do not know my angle. So I'm going to have to work backwards, but I'm just going to set up a proportion same way I did before. So I'm going to compare part over whole to part over whole. So my length, you know what? I don't know my whole circumference. I'm going to have to do that first. So my circumference, since I'm dealing with length, is 2 pi r, 2 pi times 7, which is 14 pi. Okay, now I can set up my proportion. So my partial length, 15.87, over my total length, which is 14 pi. is going to equal my angle, which I don't know, over my total angles, which is 360. Now you'll notice something here. 15.87 is obviously an approximated answer. So I have an approximated answer and I have an exact answer. That's okay. I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to get 360 times 15.87. I'll go ahead and write this out just so that you can see it. Equals 14 pi times x. 15.87 times 360 is 5713.2 equals, I'm just going to go ahead and keep 14 pi as is. I'm just going to put it all in my calculator in a minute. I'm going to divide by 14 pi. All right, so in my calculator, I'm going to hit 5713.2 divided by, here's where we want to have our correct order of operations. Some calculators do it a little bit differently. I want to make sure I am dividing by 14 pi. I'm not dividing by 14 and then multiplying by pi. So I'm just going to make double check, and I'm going to put my everything that I'm dividing by, I'm going to put it in parentheses. So 14 pi. And I get x is 129.897, that's 90. And what is my units? I about said feet, but then I looked back and went, oh, I'm finding angle. So this is angle. So really 129.90, but I was dealing with an approximate value here. So most likely the value that we were starting off with was most likely 130 degrees. Can't be sure of it, but it probably was, because of the approximation. So what's my central angle? 130 degrees. So here's an example where we kind of had to work backwards, but as long as you set up your proportion and you're solving it correctly, you can still come out with that same value. So these other values are going to be the same. In example number 3, you're given the sector area. The sector area is 59.66 square yards. You're going to have to figure out the central angle, which you're not given, and you're going to be using that same method. Set up your proportion, cross multiply, go ahead and solve.